It's not your turn yet, bitch. Hike it the fuck up.
You can't be sad yet. It's my turn to be sad.
And then a bunch of shit happens that I don't really understand.
Can we just talk about the fact that that is never a good idea?
Wednesday at 7, Justice for Goose.
Does your shirt say I'm the problem?
Yeah, it does.
Very on brand today.
Every day.
I like that color on you.
Oh, thank you. I'm pretty sure this shirt might be see-through though, so I might not be able to wear it outside the house.
Who cares? Happy birthday to everybody.
Like, is it? Can you see through it? Because I can't.
What color bra are you wearing?
Blue.
A little bit, but it's
A
not
little
that
bit.
bad.
Okay.
Could be worse.
Hey. Yes.
And honestly, happy birthday to everybody for that, okay?
Yes. Yes.
That's how I feel. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
That was
okay.
not really convincing.
Well,
it was the pause before. It was the pause before that. I'm okay.
You know, I'm living and I'm alive.
Well, that explains the pause.
I'm living, I'm alive. I have been watching a lot of trash TV, which is not very on brand.
No, but honestly, I love that for you because trash TV sometimes is amazing.
It's been kind of...
What kind of trash are you watching?
Filling reality TV.
Oh, is it the 1,000 Pound Sisters one?
Yep, we finished it.
Awesome. What's
like
now?
The whole
What's
thing.
Next now?
That's what Joey said. That's what my kids said. Like, what do we do now with our lives? That's a great question. So we moved on to 1,000 Pound Besties because that was what was recommended next.
Okay.
And then we learned that only had like 5 episodes because it has just started. So now we have to wait till the next week to, or if I was, it only had a few episodes. I don't even know, but we watched them all. And now we have to wait for, I think it's like Tuesday for a new one to come out. So yay us. But then we binged Ironheart in between. So
I don't know what that is.
It's Disney's new serial. Anyways, yes. Today we are here to discuss Story of My Life by Lucy Score. And yes, we have read Lucy Score in the past. We read one of her earlier books. Crystal has read other books of hers. And we tend to get requests for her here and there. And this one had been popping up a lot for me because I'm a Gilmore Girls fan. So that's where we're at.
Solid.
I don't remember what my problem was with the last book that we read, because I remember liking the general concept of the book.
I think it was just the writing.
But I don't remember because I remember the story itself wasn't bad, but I don't remember what it was that bothered me about it. I wish I had gone back to look before now. But I'm going to get out of the way because I'm going to talk about it a little bit. I had issues with timelining in this book. Spoiler alert, there is no sense of time in this book. Who knows when? Because I don't. So, and if you've been with us for any sense of time, you will know that that is a big problem of ours. So, we open our story with Hazel, and Hazel's not doing well. She's a writer who has writer's block, and it's slowly making her go insane. Her once organized, pristine life is basically in the pits of hell right now. She doesn't know when...
Kind of like our life just was.
And is. She doesn't know when the last time she showered. Her apartment looks like a bomb went off.
Good news, Ariel showered today, so.
I did, thank God. She's talking to herself in public. She's literally feeling herself go insane. Her agent, Zoe, tells her that she's rotting, that it's been a year, and she is officially in depressed bachelor zone. Not great. Zoe had turned up at her disgusting apartment and unearthed Hazel to let her know that her editor has been cut from the agency and that she now has a new one who's younger and cheaper. But bottom line, she has been on borrowed time, and if she misses her next deadline, her agency is going to cancel her contract. Hazel feels outraged. What about her readers? They wouldn't stand for that. Zoe points out that she's been ignoring her readers. They've moved on to authors who have been publishing and actually responding. She used to be one of the best-selling romance authors out there, but now she's let someone get into her head and she's floundering. Zoe's worried about her. She's been friends with her for a really long time. She knows her writing is important to her, so she wants her to keep this job, and she needs her to hit the next deadline. Hazel asks, what if she agrees to do the signing that she said that she wouldn't do before? Hazel said it's a start, but it's not enough. She needs to get it together. I need pep talks like this sometimes in my life.
I would give them to you, but my life also sometimes is in the exact same spot, so I can't give you those pep talks. The best I can do is you'll eventually be fine.
I think, I don't know. I think maybe we should start doing that. Like, do you want this to be you? Look at what I'm doing right now. Crystal, do you want this to be your life? Maybe you should get it together. Like
Do you
we could be like that. Like when we're in lows and shit, and then the other one starts to like sunk her down, and we could be like, nah, it's not your turn yet, bitch. Hike it the fuck up.
you can't be sad yet. It's my turn to be sad.
No. um, Hazel asks her if the stern talking to is over, and if so, if she would like some wine. Zoe says that she's not going to ingest anything that comes out of this apartment at the moment. Fair.
Fair.
Yeah. At the signing, Hazel has learned that things have changed a bit. It's a multi-author signing, which is something that Hazel isn't very familiar with. But either way, this one is wild. It's full of fresh, new indie authors made even bigger by social media, and it's a whole different world for Hazel. She was a last minute addition and has not been doing any marketing. So her agency only sent her with 50 books, even though there will be 600 attendees. They don't have high hopes for her. High hopes for the living. They don't have high hopes for the Hazel. Needless to say, she signed 13 books. She's soup's sad. She doesn't understand how she could go from being a New York Times bestseller to this in only a year. Zoe points out that she actually hasn't published a book in 2 years. She signed the papers to start writing this current book she's trying to a year ago, but she was in the middle of a legal battle with her ex-husband, Jim, for the whole year before that. And other people at this event have online presence that interact with their fans constantly. She doesn't. As things are winding down, she gets one last reader coming to her, an older woman that tells her her series got her through the death of her mother. She read to her while she was on hospice, and it just means so much to her. She's got all sorts of questions about how she writes her book, and it must be something big she's working on because she's been quiet for so long. And is it hard to write small town romance when she lives in a city? It's kind of a nice exchange at the end of things, but it's a lot. The entire event has Hazel really feeling down. Zoe tells her good because now she can rise and get the fuck back up and get back to business. She needs to get to her next book. It will be great. On her way out, though, Zoe gets a phone call. She just got fired. Apparently, she put something in her calendar wrong and she was supposed to go do something with another big client that day. And since she wasn't there, the client did something stupid and it was a whole thing. And worse, she has a non-compete clause, so she can't take any of her clients with her, even if they were willing to, which makes Hazel feel even more guilt because Zoe's been with her all day instead of there. Back at her apartment, Hazel gets a voicemail from an attorney's office saying that they're reaching out to discuss the terms of her divorce settlement because apparently she had agreed to vacate her apartment and she was served papers last month, but they haven't heard from her. She rushes inside and goes through all of the mail that's just been stacking and stacking like a hoarder in her apartment. And then she finds it. And sure enough, must vacate the premises by August 15th, which is in 5 days. She calls the attorney back, and the attorney explains that even though both their names were on the mortgage, her ex-husband only put his name on the deed. So she's half ownership of the debt, no ownership of the asset.
Fuck that dude.
Right? Hazel doesn't even try to call her own lawyer because she remembers how disappointed the lawyer had seemed that Hazel just had a desire to give up during the whole thing and have nothing to do with it. Her ex Jim was a shitbag. She just needed to be done. She gets her laptop and checks her banking, which she hadn't done for a while without any new book advances. She definitely doesn't have purchase a new apartment in Manhattan flush money, but while rummaging through stuff, she finds a folder with brainstorming clippings and finds an old news article from a Pennsylvania newspaper for a small town called Story Lake, and how the Bishop Brothers Construction worked together to help an elderly woman fix up her home for the good of the community. And she starts to get a book concept of a small town grumpy hero that did everything for everyone but hated being thanked for it. And suddenly she was writing about this man, one of the Bishop brothers, Campbell Bishop, that was pictured in the article, that is inspiring her story. And she's typing furiously away on her laptop. It wasn't perfect, but it's a start. And she sits back and wonders if just this article can give her that much inspiration. What could real life inspiration give? She starts looking up real estate in Story Lake, just for inspiration. But she gets all these ideas. And then she sees the exact house from the article listed. And man, that big red buy it now button is just like flashing and blaring at her. And time is ticking down. It's a property auction. And maybe it's the wine. Maybe it's the fact that it's now 3 o'clock in the morning. But she clicks that freaking button. She's already doing crazy things. She decides to, keep the crazy going, and she opens Facebook. And she goes on her author profile and she starts a live. Yeah. And she starts blubbering her whole story. So, yeah. 2 days later, she wakes Zoe up, who's in her own spiral because, just got fired, and tells her she wrote actual words and that they are moving to Story Lake and she needs her help to spy on the Bishop brothers. Zoe's just like, what? So, obviously, an
Fair
hour later,
reaction.
yeah, Zoe is
What?
showered and packed and reminding Hazel that she cannot base a character on a real life person without being sued. Also, she's never lived anywhere other than New York. What is Hazel going to do when she's hungry in the middle of the night and no delivery? Yeah. Hazel says that she needs a change and she's already committed. She bought a house in Story Lake at 4 a.m. from an online auction. And they get into a rental car. And Zoe is what the fucking again. They only hit a curb, a city bus, 4 traffic cones, and 37 potholes. It's okay. Totally okay.
Uh-huh.
They're just used to city life and not driving. Hazel's never owned a car before, but she's feeling adventurous. Then she drifts onto the shoulder of the highway. She just drifts onto the shoulder of the highway. Zoe holding on for dear life, no big deal. So she pulls into the gas station right as they're minutes from their destination because, of course, that's when the light comes on. She's clearly a Crystal driver, not an Ariel driver. And she can't get the car near the pump correctly. And she keeps having to back it out and try to fix it. But then other cars come and they kind of block her in and it's not going well. And then the car won't go at all until some guy comes over and tells her she's in neutral. She looks up at him and he's fine as fuck, but also looks vaguely familiar. Maybe she's seen him on a fashion magazine, but who knows? He offers his help. And she says she's got this and shifts into drive and presses down the gas, but a little too hard and hits the truck in front of her. And the guy's like, what the hell? But her rescuer is telling the guy who knows him by name to chill. They didn't even scratch his truck. Don't worry about it. And then he tells her, put it in park. She does. Sure enough, the truck doesn't even have a scratch, but her rental definitely cracked. Her hero is navigating all the people around her and making deals with them. And it's kind of funny because this one wants this one wants that. The guy whose truck she hits, he's promising she'll buy him a Mountain Dew and it'll all be good. And Mr. Hero Man asks what brought her to Pennsylvania. And she says, midlife crisis. And he says his day would be even better if she let him move her car because there are times and places to learn how to maneuver gas stations, and this is not one of them. But she agrees as long as she can say she would have figured it out herself eventually. And he gets her car straightened out properly at the gas pump, and he even puts the convertible top down for her and reminds her not to use diesel. And she waits until he goes into the store before she looks up a YouTube video on how to pump gas. Zoe comes back out because she was in the store using the bathroom getting a drink, and she's impressed that Hazel was able to figure out the whole car situation. And they get back on the road and make it into Story Lake officially. They don't quite make it to their destination whole, though. I'm going to try to describe this scene to you the best that I can. So, a bald eagle named Goose was carrying a fish and dipped too low and hit Hazel in the face with said fish as she was driving and caused her to swerve and slam into the Story Lake sign. And in doing so, dropped the fish into Zoe's lap. So Goose is going crazy trying to get the fish back, and the girls are shrieking. And
Ah! Sorry.
and Hazel has blood running down her face from her forehead. And then this man named Cam, has his own point of view. He's our MMC and has to try to dissect these women from the situation. He's not happy about it, mind you. They are inconveniencing him. They are not from around here. It's not great for him. Once he tells them what happened, Hazel's all too worried about the bald eagle and if it needs medical attention, while he's just trying to stop the bleeding from her head. It's not a bad wound, but head wounds bleed. Meanwhile, Zoe is freaking the fuck out. She's terrified of fish and birds. So this is like a horror movie for her, and she's just having a whole emotionally scarring moment. She's just like shrieking in the front seat while he's trying to clean up this other woman's bloody face. So Cam has Hazel over by his vehicle trying to clean her up, and Hazel catches his eyes and tells him he looks familiar and he has such pretty eyes. He's wondering if she has a concussion. But then she asks if he's Campbell Bishop, and he pauses and says, Cam, and asks what's it to her. And she just lets out a snort and says he really does have the mean, nice thing down. And he asks her name so that he stops calling her trouble in his head. And she introduces herself, and she's all upset because she's already running late. And now she's going to be even later because she has to find a bird hospital. She asks how far it is to get to downtown Story Lake. And he's basically like, what downtown? And she tells him where she needs to go and asks if it's close enough to walk because obviously this car is not going anywhere. And he asks if she walks better than she drives. And she says she's too stressed to take offense to that and thanks him for the first aid and heads to Zoe. And he asks where she's going. She says she has to get Zoe figured out and figure out how to get the bald eagle. And then they have to walk in town to meet the mayor. He must know a bird doctor. Cam says a lot of swears. Hazel's trying to get the attention of the bald eagle. He tries to tell her not to get closer because maybe he'll bite, which is not true. This particular eagle has never bitten anyone. And she says she needs to get him to a bird doctor. Campbell says that Goose is fine. And Zoe is rattling off different vets that are nearby that she's looking up on her phone as Campbell reiterates that the fucking eagle is fucking fine. Zoe says that that man is grumpy. And Hazel in total glee says, yes, he is. But then Hazel says the eagle's not fine. Look at his wing. Campbell says that he's faking it. Hazel doesn't believe him, so Campbell stomps back to his truck, grabs a pack of treats, and tosses one to Goose and tells him to quit playing around. And sure enough, the eagle snatches them up and flies off. Hazel's just standing there, shocked, because she just got scammed by a bald eagle. Zoe just says she's going to have nightmares for the rest of her life. Campbell tells them to get in his truck. He'll text the tow driver and tell him where to find them. He takes them into town. It's not a very long drive, though it does feel like it for Cam, because Hazel tries to make small talk, especially when she sees a book on his dash and asks if he reads. And he says if she's asking if he's capable of reading. And she says, no, like, does he enjoy reading? And he says, right now, he's not capable of enjoying anything. He wants to know what she's doing in Story Lake, besides, eagle assaulting. And she says she's meeting the mayor. And Zoe wants to know where everyone is because it kind of seems like a ghost town. Yeah, Hazel agrees because she was told that it was a bustling downtown, and Campbell snorts because he wants to know who told her that. They get to their destination and he tells them to get out. And if Hazel needs anything before she leaves, not to call him. But Hazel and Zoe are too distracted by the monstrosity before them. Beyond a rickety picket fence, lots of weeds and vines, is an eyesore ramshackle of a mansion type falling down house. Cam's just kind of like, he's out. Okay, yeah, bye. Hazel brings the paperwork out of her bag and says that the windows and doors look the same, but the pictures do not. And then all of a sudden, a group of what seems to be teenage boys head down the sidewalk and stop in front of them. And one puts their hand out and says, Hazel Hart, right? And introduces himself as Darius Oglethorpe, the mayor and real estate agent. Hazel's like, what the fuck? He must be in high school. Darius says he's about to be a senior. It's no problem. Cam swears and begrudgingly walks over and asks Darius what the fuck he did now. Darius explains that Miss Hart has just bought the Hart house, which I think was a little too much, just saying. And she got herself a seat on town council. They need fresh blood in town, and he made it happen. Zoe accuses them of using AI images on the house, and Darius is just proud of himself because his little sister worked hard on those images. Cam snatches the papers out of Hazel's hand and looks through them, growling as Darius dismisses his posse. And Hazel wants to find out how the high schooler became the mayor. Cam just mutters about how he's some genius and the town has stupid bylaws and all kinds of shit, and how he ran unopposed. But he wants to know what the fuck's going on here. Hazel says she bought the house and sort of lives there now. Zoe wants her not to be hasty because this house looks like it should be condemned. Darius also reminds her she has a seat on the council, not just a house, whole part of the town now. Cam says he can't just sell a seat on the council. Darius gives Hazel the key and tells her, go explore. He's going to just chat with Cam. Darius pulls Cam aside and explains that it's a win for everyone. This is a new tax-paying citizen. She's going to fill the last seat on the council and fix up the biggest eyesore in town. And guess what? She's going to need help doing that. And the Bishop brothers are the only business in town that can help her with that. Win, win, win. They even now have their own town celebrity because she's Hazel Hart. And then she pokes her head out of the window asking for more information about the previous owner, Zoe calling after, asking if they were murdered gruesomely. If that's what she's smelling. Darius says, why doesn't he come in and fill in some gaps? And Cam will too, because he's going to be the perfect to hire any fixes she may need. She wants the best after all. Cam is regretting all his life choices.
Honestly, yeah.
Because then all of a sudden his sibling group chat starts blowing up because one of the neighbors across the street is nosy and is calling around town and posting stuff. And yeah, they find it really weird because Gage, one of his brothers, met someone at the gas station too who's hot, mysterious, and flirty. And the whole group chat just keeps going about Goose and the car accident and all kinds of stuff. It's a whole thing. So he goes inside to get it over with, and he does his best to make all the things inside sound like they're much worse than they are and that they're going to need much more work so that she'll be packing her bags within the month. And when Hazel heads up to see the bedrooms with Darius, Zoe turns on Cam and tells him off, saying that this is the first time in 2 years that she's seen even a spark of anything in Hazel's eyes. And if he manages to put it out by being a gigantic, grumpy man bear baby, that she will destroy his life. He says he's not looking to get roped into whatever idiotic whim she has just to change her mind and bolt. It's his family business, and she can't fuck with his family's livelihood. She says, is his business really that busy, or is it as dead as the town is? Get a deposit when he takes the job. Don't be a dumbass. Or better yet, give her the name of someone who could actually do it before he fucks her over and makes her start doubting herself again. She catches up with Hazel, who's looking at what will make the perfect office. And Hazel tells her that she doesn't have to do this with her. But Zoe says she's her friend and her agent. If this is what she needs, she's in. But she also could have given her the option before she kidnapped her from her apartment and brought her here. Just saying. Zoe finds out about her drunken live video, and Hazel realizes that people actually watched it. But the comments are pretty positive, and people are looking forward to hearing about Hazel's fresh start. Later on, they hear a knock from the front door, which takes them a bit of time to get the damn thing open. But once they do, there's a man named Gator who has her car that he towed, and he wants her to get her stuff out of it before he takes it to the garage. So, just to let everyone know, drunken Hazel, not a good packer. She packed one suitcase and 3 cases of wine, which didn't fare too well with the whole accident thing because now she has one suitcase that is covered and stained in wine and a trunk that smells like a bar floor. Zoe's just happy that her stuff was in the back seat until Gator tells her to make sure she cleans the eagle poop off the stuff in the back seat. Hazel asks Gator if he has a rental she could borrow, and he says no, he does not have a rental for the rental she destroyed. She should probably stay off the roads and try not to murder any more wildlife.
This is the second book we've had a dude named Gator.
Really?
I swear to God, the last book we read had Gator, the drug dealer for the
What?
sister.
Oh, was that his name?
I'm pretty sure the dude's name is Gator.
I think you might be right. I don't know.
I just
That's
thought of
weird.
that. I don't know. Sorry. Not relevant to the conversation at all.
I don't know. Anywho, later that evening, apparently Cam is helping out his family hardware store, which he doesn't do a lot of because he's actually not that great at, but they all pitch in and help when they can. So while he's there, Hazel and Zoe march in looking for everything under the sun, including food, supplies, clothes, all of it. And they smell like that barroom floor. And he's like, what the heck? They load up their cart super high, and Hazel explains about the whole wine all over her belongings thing. So everything she owns smells like wine, thus buying random tourist clothes that are junk, but they get everything. And Cam is the slowest cashier in the world, and Zoe has retail experience. So she basically pushes him out of the way. And he's trying to bag stuff, and Hazel's like, no, because he's doing it wrong, and pushes him out of the way. So Zoe's bringing stuff up, and she's bagging, and he's just looking at them dumbfounded when Cam's sister Laura calls the store. And she was basically in charge of the store to begin with. And she's pissed. She saw on the cameras that the girls were ringing themselves up, and she yells at Cam for daring to make the Hazel Hart ring herself up and bag her own groceries. And she threatens Cam that if he doesn't start treating Hazel properly, she's going to march down there herself and demands to put Hazel on the phone. Hazel awkwardly takes it and pretends that she wasn't eavesdropping on the whole thing and assures Laura that she will not hold Cam against the entire family and that they do like the store. Until Cam rustles the phone away from her and tells Laura to stop bothering them as Zoe finishes ringing everything up. And when he turns to them, he asks just how they thought they were going to get all this shit back to the house. So, of course, Mr. Grumpy Pants has to bring them home. And of course, he has to help them bring it inside. And as they do, they ask where they can find a restaurant in town. And he's dumbfounded because they just spent $400 on food. Why aren't they going to make any of that food? And they just laugh and explain you can't grocery shop and then make food in the same day, which honestly, facts.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah.
Just saying. Yeah, facts. Cam says the nearest restaurant is too far to walk in the dark. And Zoe doesn't like that, so she takes out her phone and says there's only a place 6 blocks away. And Cam is losing his fucking mind. And after quite the internal struggle, he says that he will drive them to the restaurant if they promise not to speak to him and that they will leave him alone for the rest of the night and find their own way home without getting injured or causing injury. When they get to the restaurant, Cam's brother pulls up at the same time and convinces Cam to go in. So unfortunately, Cam's stuck going in. The ladies are not met with pleasant looks or friendliness from the town folks that are inside the restaurant. They aren't sure what's going on until after they order their food and a woman walks up and starts yelling at them and calling them an eagle murderer and how they're not welcome here after they took out their endangered bird. They try to tell the lady, whose name is Emily, that there's been some kind of misunderstanding. The bird is fine, but Emily's not hearing it. And when their appetizer comes, she dumps it on the floor. The whole place starts erupting into chaos until Cam pushes his way into the chaos and tells everyone to calm the hell down with his brother in tow. He tells everyone the bird is fine and reminds them of every other rumor that goes through town and how it gets out of hand. And he says he saw it happen and Goose is fine. Somebody else calls out that they don't believe him and that they call for an emergency town meeting to settle the matter on Wednesday night. And someone else yells out that Wednesday night is bingo night. But some things are more important. So somebody says Wednesday at 7, justice for Goose. Everyone kind of dissipates a little after that. And another waiter who looks identical to the first waiter, turns out they're twins, comes over with a new basket of breadsticks, their appetizer, and says hello to Cam and his brother Levi, calling them uncles. Turns out they're two of Laura's 3 children. Zoe's wondering if everyone in this freaking town is related, and Cam suggests that they get their food to go. Hazel wakes up the next morning to Zoe screaming. And when she runs in the room, she finds Zoe panicking, standing on her bed, and a raccoon on her bedroom floor. Apparently, Zoe had found it in her bed. Hazel tries shooing it, which does not work, and they bicker on how to deal with this, which is apparently enough to make the raccoon leave because he's not dealing with this shit. No, he doesn't want that drama. Zoe informs her that she now has a reservation at the Story Lake Lodge. She's not sharing a room with a raccoon. And they get breakfast and talk about what they need to continue living in Story Lake. Hazel tells Zoe that the rest of her stuff should be arriving that next day. And Zoe tells her that she's going to need to be the one to rent a car because obviously Hazel will not be allowed to drive it. After they eat, Zoe tells Hazel that she better go write because this all needs to be worth it. She does get some writing done, and apparently time doesn't exist in this book because now the town meeting is that evening. Because then they find a flyer on the door advertising about it and condemning her at the same time. All in, one day. Wild. They get contacted by the Bishop brothers about an estimate on the house. I guess Dad is in charge of running estimates and stuff, and Cam is reluctantly going along with it because his family business does need the big job. Cam had ventured out on his own for a while, and the others had taken over the business, but Cam's sister had gotten into an accident and now has a spinal cord issue and is in a wheelchair. And so Cam moved back last year when that all happened and got back with the family business. And it's been a little bit of an adjustment again, especially since they are all on board and Team Hazel and he is Team Grumpy Pants. The ladies meet up with them all, and Gage is kind of an idiot about meeting Zoe. So I'm assuming that will probably be book 2, either that or Laura, judging by the rest of the book, but I'm assuming it's Gage. Yeah. Hazel agrees to the estimate with the condition that they are good at raccoon removal, which the father says he's a raccoon whisperer.
I just can't.
He's not, but he wants the job. So town meeting comes around. It's held at the funeral home. Yeah. Hazel gets to sit up on the stage area with the other council members, after they pay respects to the funeral going on in the next room because, not a lot of attendance. So it's kind of entry price to get into the town meeting. And Zoe joins the crowd, waiting for the show to begin. Darius calls the meeting to order, and instead of order, the entire crowd erupts into chaos, and they all have signs, and they're all booing Hazel, and it's a wild fucking mess. Cam, because he's on the board too, tells Hazel that she needs to stand up for herself, and she's like, fuck it, and goes to the mic. And she tells the whole story of what happened and how she thought that small town people were supposed to be nice and welcoming. And they've been awful. This is awful. They should be ashamed of themselves. The crazy lady from the restaurant, Emily, who's apparently also on the council, demands proof of her story and says they shouldn't just take her word for it. Gage walks up and takes the mic and says that he's there to represent Miss Hart as her attorney. Apparently, he is a lawyer half the time, but they can't drum up a lot of business in that small town. So he also does the Bishop Brother construction, and he directs everyone to the screen and turns the TV on. Apparently, Cam had a dash cam. So they all get to awfully watch the whole terrifying scene on TV and see Goose obviously leaving unharmed. The lady won't let it go, though. She says Goose could have been still dead because no one's seen him since, and he could have died from internal injuries after he flew away. Gage says, see Exhibit B. Then there's another video. And in this video, it's the Bishop brothers' parents in their backyard talking about the emergency meeting that evening. And then right then and there, Goose is perched high in a tree in their backyard. And that fucking lady, Emily, says it could be AI or a different bald eagle. But the crowd is clearly not on her side anymore, and Darius agrees. So says, in light of that new evidence, everyone can agree that Hazel Hart did not harm Goose, and the audience all nods. And he also informs them that Hazel's rental insurance is covering the cost of the sign, so everyone can move on to the next agenda item. Apparently, they don't have police in their town, and they think that they need a chief of police, someone who can be their budget police officer part-time type of thing, and deal with the odd call here and there. When there's an 84-year-old flasher or someone driving their golf cart on public roads. The crazy whack job, Emily, who tried to initiate the whole meeting, tries to nominate herself for the job. So the Bishop clan basically throws Levi under the bus and nominates him. Darius is all excited and says they're going to have a special election. They'll vote at the next scheduled town meeting, and the meeting's adjourned. Sam pulls Hazel aside afterwards and is basically like, look, they got her out of this mess. He needs her assurance that she's not going to back out of the restoration contract because his family really needs this job. She's getting really sick of this song and dance, and she's already stood up for herself one time that evening, so it's not too much to do it again. And she just goes off on this whole rant about what her life was like before and how she gave it up and how she came here sight unseen and sunk all her life savings, and she has no life to go back to now. This is her life, and she's responsible for Zoe and her career, and she needs to make this work. So yes, she's going to make it work, and he needs to fucking calm himself. And she tires herself out with that, so he offers to drive her home. Zoe had already taken off to go get the rental car and go to her room at the lodge. And once she's in Cam's vehicle, she just reiterates that she hired his family business and his family helped her, and she gave her word. She wouldn't back out of the deal, but she needs something from him because she's just ruminating on Cam and his whole demeanor. And she says she needs him to flirt with her and take her out on a date. He's completely silent. She doesn't even think he's breathing. She calls him out on both things until he finally just repeats that she wants them to date. And she says, absolutely not. It's just research. How she's writing a grumpy alpha hero and she hasn't been on a date in a really long time. And she needs to make this guy quirky and adorable. And she needs inspiration. And Cam's kind of inspiring. He's basically like, what? And she's like, she knew she should have just gone to Gage. But Cam just frowns a lot. And it would be good to see him in action. But that instead of openly hating her, he could just pretend that he secretly is attracted to her.
Because that's how that works.
Right? He wants to know why. He's not hero material. She says parts of him are. she saw his picture and knew she had to come here. He's confused. And she explains about the whole article where his brothers helped fix up the house 10 years ago or whatever. And she's been struggling till she saw this house and the whole thing. She just wants to keep being inspired. They get to her house and they both walk out and he walks through the door, which is she's kind of like weirded out by it. But he grabs a light bulb from the back of his truck because hers isn't working and he goes to replace it. And she's like, guys usually bring flowers. And he says he's not the romantic asshole she can model a hero after. She's got the wrong guy. She asks if he'll do it, if he'll do the whole flirting and fake date thing. And after a while, he just says he'll think about it and that he'll see her the next day that demo starts bright and early. Yeah, the brothers show up at 7 a.m. knocking on her door,
Hell
which
fucking no.
Hazel did not set an alarm for. So now she's woken up and stumbles out of bed past the raccoon and sleepily answers the door with her hair in every direction. Gage trades her coffee for entrance and she lets them in. Grumpy Cam tells her that they're going to start demoing so that they can finalize the plans for the remodel. She's going to have to get her stuff out of the kitchen so they can start. She won't be able to cook for a while. She's basically like, that's not going to be a problem. And goes to take a shower to wake up a bit. So the Bishop family has these two dogs. I'm pretty sure at least one of them, Melvin, belongs to the sister, but they seem to kind of hang out with everyone. I guess Melvin used to go to work with the sister, but now that her accident, he's doesn't want to be home all the time. So the dog kind of makes his way with everybody and takes turns. So
I love that though.
Melvin, yeah, came with the boys today to Hazel's house. And Melvin makes his way into the bathroom as Hazel's getting out of the shower. She has this like deep, giant tub. And the freaking dog tries to climb in the tub and lick the bottom of the tub, and he gets stuck. And this dog is massive. And Hazel tries to scoop him out, and it's a whole big thing. She gets stuck, and she ends up trying to pry herself out. And the dog just kind of flops down and chills out in the tub. And she just gets distracted in her towel by an idea for her book. It could be the man, and they could get trapped in the shower curtain and a whole thing. And she just starts writing away. And she's in the zone and the dog falls asleep and they're both pulled out of the zone by her phone ringing. It's her mother. She's calling to tell her that she's engaged again. Once she hangs up, because the dog is barking now because of the phone ringing and wanting her attention and wanting to get out of the tub again, she goes to help when, of course, all three Bishop brothers are now standing in the doorway of the bathroom, watching her try to get the dog out of the tub in a towel, asking if she needs help. They managed to get her and the 100-pound dog out of the tub.
No, I need no help at all.
Just as the door gets banged on again, and the rest of Hazel's stuff has arrived. So they all unload the truck, and Hazel's overjoyed to have her belongings as well as her bike. And Cam makes a comment that he hopes that she rides a bike better than she can drive. She assures him she can. Later that afternoon, Cam finds Gage and Hazel talking in her office, and it seems like she's propositioning him about the whole fake date thing, and Cam is not happy. He tells Gage to get out and tells Hazel he does not like to be rushed. She says she doesn't like waiting centuries for a simple yes or no. She's on a deadline. She doesn't have time to waste if it's too inconvenient for him or he can't stomach being around her for one fake date. She needs to move on. He just looks at her, says, Saturday, 7 o'clock. Prepare to be dated. She says, fine, but she's bringing her notebook. He says, whatever, but they need to keep it between the two of them. The next day, she was up bright and early, ready for the boys. And after they get to work, she decides to sneak off on her bike to avoid all the testosterone and go visit Zoe. When she gets there, Zoe's busy on Zoom calls trying to help Hazel's comeback and wanting to know why Hazel isn't home writing. Girl. That afternoon, Hazel goes out with Laura, the Bishop's sister, to pick out tiles and faucets and all other trim stuff. And they get lunch because they're super hungry, but they have to keep it hush hush because they go to Dominion, the next town over, which is kind of like a competing town to Story Lake. Like if you're a Gilmore Girls fan, it's kind of like that whole mayor situation where they're always in competition with each other. It's a whole thing. Anyway, There's this model-esque woman that walks up to them, and Laura clearly puts on a fake front for her and fake laughs and ha ha ha. And how are you, Nina? And the Nina lady is like, oh, so fabulous. We're having a record year and blah, blah, blah. Give my best to your brother.
You know what it
And
reminds me of? Have you ever watched Parks and Rec?
not really.
It's the
Bits
same
and
thing.
pieces.
It's
Oh,
literally the same thing, but one town is super nice and rich, and the other town is absolutely not. Also, does turn out that later on in the series, the other town basically goes broke because they're just spending money on stupid shit.
well,
Because
it's like
they're
the when Stars Hollow gets to do the moving picture festival because the other town had like an issue and it was like a big deal and then there were spies and it was a whole
yeah,
yeah.
exact same thing.
But for real,
Because
like
I
it's
totally know what's happening.
you should. You're supposed to. You shouldn't be this old in your life and not have binged Gilmore Girls at least 3 times. I feel like that should be your homework. Anywho, Laura's like, "Oh yes, this is Cam's girlfriend, by the way. Isn't she fabulous?" And Hazel's stunned and only gets out sup. She literally rode her bike
Sup.
to Laura's house. So she's a sweaty swamp monster. And then they spent the afternoon shopping and they're all haggard. And now this blonde Amazon model lady is being compared to her in her mind. And she's like, fuck. So when Nina leaves, Hazel turns on Laura, like, how did she know? Cam said not to say anything. And Laura freezes. And Hazel realizes she was just baiting the woman. So Hazel has to explain that she's not really dating Cam. It's research. She kind of blackmailed him into it. It's not a real date. And Laura just looks at her, watching her hyperventilate, and says where she's sitting, she could also use some fake sex. Hazel just shakes her head as Laura says that she knows just the place for them to find her something to wear. The ladies go shopping. Hazel ends up with much more than she bargained for. And as they're getting out of the store, Laura checks her phone and groans and hands it to Hazel, saying some light reading. It's her family group chat. The family's trying to find them because neither one of them had answered their phones all afternoon and presume them missing, and they're worried. Nut jobs. Laura sends them a video of the two of them as proof of life and tells them to fuck off and leave them alone.
I feel like we should all be able to be allowed to do that sometimes.
Yeah. So
Except for I would do that to you and you'd be like, I can see your location, you dumbass. No.
well, at least I know you were safe.
But do you know I'm actually safe is the real question.
If you're moving, I guess maybe. I don't
Okay,
know.
let us revisit this conversation for a second. Okay, I need everybody to understand that somebody called me a few times after also
You weren't
texting.
moving.
I am at my own apartment.
You weren't supposed to be.
But you would think that if, I don't know, I don't answer and I haven't been moving, maybe I'm sleeping. But
It was
no, she,
day.
it was like 11 a.m.
And 12 and 1. I was
I,
concerned.
I went to work and then came home. But anyways,
Somebody loves you.
yeah, but I know you're safe. Well, apparently that doesn't actually matter. And someone has to love me. I'm glad it's you. My own
See,
kid
I wouldn't
loves me,
allow
but it
you
doesn't really count because
to get
she's kind of
kidnapped.
required to love me.
See, I wouldn't let you get kidnapped. So,
Oh, that's fair.
date night rolls around and Grumpy Cam is in full effect. And he brings her to the fanciest restaurant he can
A
and is
Cracker Barrel. Just kidding.
no. No.
No, but can you imagine?
She would have been fine with that.
Just saying. Oh,
She
Waffle
totally
House.
would have been fine with that. That's probably more what she was expecting. This, where she can't even pronounce half of what's on the menu, was not.
Yeah, he went fancy fancy.
Yeah. He's clearly uncomfortable, and she accuses him of trying to torpedo their date because she asked him for his kind of date experience. But she doesn't want to do it if he's not willing. Like, that's not fair to anyone. So she tries to leave and he chases after her and tells her to get in the truck because he reminds her there's no lift in this town. Once she's in, he tells her that he owes her a real date. And not only that, but she's hungry. So she gives in. Duh.
I need
So,
food. Yeah.
yeah. So he pulls up to the grocery store parking lot. And which honestly, this lady obviously watched too much Gilmore Girls because this is literally a scene from Gilmore Girls. They go to this place and it's too much, and then they decide to ditch that date, that fancy dinner date, and they go to the grocery store. And literally, Lorelai and the douche canoe fucking digger does this. Anywho, he pulls up to the grocery store parking lot, starts taking off his tie and dress shirts, letting her see all of his muscle tattooiness. And she's just like, what the fuck? And he's maneuvering his arm in the back seat, trying to find a t-shirt. And she asks him if he always grocery shops naked and what the fuck they're doing. Her head is spinning. So he's just trying to ask her what kind of beer and subs she likes. And she's speechless. And he's repeating himself many times until she finally can answer him. And then once he finds the shirt, he leaves and goes in the store. And she's rapidly texting Zoe and giving her the play-by-play, who's asking for photos, of course. And then Cam returns with bags and beer and then drives to a lake where she obviously asks if he's going to murder her. Duh. He leads her out to a dock where he gets on a boat. Not his boat, by the way. Levi's. He's stealing it. And then they eat their subs and drink beer on a boat on the lake. Turns out Cam did a little research for the day and started reading one of Hazel's books. He's about halfway through, but he knows how she expects it to go. So she does convince him that they're supposed to do small talk about families. So he tells her that Levi, Gage, and him are adopted and that their parents were killed in a car accident when he was 8. So they were with foster families for a month or two before they got with the Bishops. Gage originally got put in foster care with them, and then they did everything they could to keep the boys together. They got a family and a sister all in one. It was great. But after college, he worked at the Bishop Brothers for a while Levi was in the military, but then he wanted to do something different. So he went out on his own and did some real estate developing and worked his way up in the company until his dad had a stroke. And they all came back and recuperated around him until he got better. But then he left again. He had his whole life built and he stayed away until Laura's accident. And now he's back for good. Well, he quit his job there, sold his place. He feels like he can't leave right now. And he feels like it was selfish for going out, having his own to begin with. She tells him it's not selfish for wanting them to be proud of him and being able to stand on his own. He asks about her story and she kind of tries to evade, but he says, no, that's not going to happen. This goes both ways. She wanted this. Hazel says her mom has been married 6 times and it's about to be number 7. They aren't close. Her father died when she was a toddler and her mom has been trying to marry up ever since. Cam asks if her husband was the one and she says he was the one she picked. That they dated for 3 years and were married for 7 and they got divorced and now she's here. He asks for more. He asks if the ex made her pay on the first date. She says she's the one who asked him out. She offered to pay. And he looks at her pointedly. She said she spent most of the marriage being impressed by him, that by being so impressed by him that by the time she realized he was nothing but a dirtbag, that she was too embarrassed to put up a fight. She let him walk all over her. She wants to change the subject, that he was a literary agent like Zoe, and he represented the serious stuff, made her feel like what she wrote wasn't important or interesting. And this is about her writing. And with her writing, she wants to feel the opposite of bad, and talking about this makes her feel bad. So she wants to move on. They bring the boat back in, but as they're trying to maneuver it, they're both trying to bring it in. And of course, Hazel has no coordination or balance skills, so they end up plastered kind of against each other. And Cam has multiple mixed emotions about this until they're distracted by someone yelling out in the distance. It's Levi. As his boat, he had it tagged and saw that they took it out. And I don't know what this has to do with anything, but somehow he was with a giant pig. And the giant pig starts barreling towards them down the dock. And Cam, who's not thinking with his upper brain because of all that closeness with her a second ago, shoves Hazel off the dock to protect her from the incoming giant pig. And then obviously has to go in after her to help her. So now they're both soaking wet as Levi tries to help them out of the water, who
Oh
teases them
man.
about boat theft, asking if the two of them are dating. And Hazel panics and says no and asks if Laura told him that because of Nina. And that's just for research. And Cam's mind is exploding with all that information. Like, what the fuck? And they get back and end up getting her to the truck, and he gives her the dress shirt to dry off with, and he brings her home. And he tells her he didn't mean to throw her in the lake, but she says it's okay. It's a gold mine of inspiration. And when they get back to the house, she thanks him for the research, holding out her hand all businesslike. And he's like, that's not how dates end. And she's like, it wasn't a real date. It was a business transaction. And he says, transaction not over. And he pushes her up against the door and kisses her thoroughly and then pulls away and says, now it's over.
Okay.
Needless to say, Hazel was up all night writing. 10,000 words to be exact.
That was a lot of words to write.
Yeah, she was up all night and into the morning. And she's shocked and overjoyed about that, except for the fact that she's pulled out of her haze by the teenage mayor who's at her house to, to apparently escort her to bingo. Apparently, this is one of her duties as part of the council because bingo is a full on sport for this town. She shows up, hasn't slept all night, mind you, and people are in team colors. There are specialized jobs. There are specialized rules and points. It's wild. Even the Bishop brothers show up shirtless with their chests painted, spelling out Bishop across combined their chests because they're cheering on their mother and sister's team. It's wild. The whole town practically shuts down for this insane event. Once it's over, Cam finds her and pulls her aside and asks why she looks like she's been up all night. She says because she was up writing, and he's all smug, like because of him. And she says he may have managed to plant a few ideas. And she teases him, like, oh, is he checking in to make sure she has no regrets about their very brief makeout session? He says he's just making sure she didn't fall in love with him and start designing wedding invitations.
Vomit.
She says it was nothing but research. They're good.
It's not that good.
Right? And she says she'll see him around and goes to leave. But he grabs her wrist and pulls her back and kisses her again right under the bleachers. And they start groping each other. And they're right on the edge of escalating things. Like they probably would have fucked under the bleachers. Except Hazel's phone starts ringing. And then she hears Zoe's voice saying, she hears the phone. Hazel must be nearby. And Cam and Hazel both step back. Yeah. Cam's trying to cool off. And the phone keeps ringing. And Hazel just says, she should probably go. But then she stops and asks, was this just a heat of the moment thing? Because she's a little confused. He says he liked kissing her, so he did it again. She's basically like, cool, yeah, makes sense.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, is he planning on doing it again? Just make sure she's
Prepared.
prepared. Yeah. He says he'll let her know. She's like, great, awesome.
Love that for me.
Yep. She's like, she's just gonna go then. And he just calls out to her as she's leaving to let her know she's blue on her face because, his whole body was painted blue. Yeah. She tries to rub it off. It doesn't really work that well. And when Zoe asks about it, she just says she fell. And Zoe asks if she also fell into a blue hand on her ass.
Oh, fuck.
A very grumpy Cam shows up to Hazel's house to work the next day. He really had trouble sleeping and is not even sure what the fuck he's doing. And he's more grumpy when he gets inside and realizes that Hazel is sleeping. So he decides to demo her bathroom right then and there. And he starts smashing away until she's awake, which is a little toxic, buddy. And she's like, what the fuck? But it backfires because then she comes out in her underwear with his brothers. And he has to push her right back into the bedroom, which of course causes the raccoon to wake up. So, that's fun.
The raccoon,
it's a whole thing. Yeah. When she's awake and dressed, she comes to the boys and asks if they'll pose so she could take a picture for social media of the demo of her house. And Cam is basically like, no, until the other brothers volunteer. And now he's even grumpier because Gage is like, shirt on or off. Cam spends several days ignoring and avoiding Hazel even while working at her house. It's not going well for him. It's making him even grumpier until he's bringing his niece home from school one afternoon and she's going on and on about a teenage boy acting like a teenage boy. And he realizes that he's been acting like a teenage boy. And he goes over to Hazel's and then he sees that she's trying to hang up some curtains and he gets distracted by that and tries to help her. It's a whole mess, which only gets him turned on more. And he just ends up blurting out how he wants her enough that it pisses him off. He doesn't like spending all this time thinking about her. He doesn't like not being able to touch her, but he's not looking for a relationship. And sleeping with her would be stupid. And all he wants to do is have dirty, meaningless sex with her, but he doesn't want her to get hurt. And she tells him she's not going to fall apart because his cock gets near her.
Oh.
That's pretty insulting. In fact, she could use a good meaningless fuck herself. He reminds her that she's a client, that his family needs her business, and that would be stupid. She's like, fine, let's just put it in writing. She's written more words since he kissed her than in the past 2 years. So imagine if they did more. She pulls out a notebook and writes out that they both promise to have meaningless sex as long as it's convenient for both of them, but they will not allow a physical relationship to interfere with their business relationship. And they're not going to pursue a romantic relationship. And they each sign it. And once that's over, he grabs her, kisses her, and quickly has a hand down her pants while Hazel starts to disrobe him. He asks if she's got condoms. She does. And then he fucks her right there on the floor until she feels like jello.
That escalated real quickly, but
Uh-huh.
also, can we just talk about the fact that that is never a good idea?
Mm-mm.
I do love that trope though, but
I
it's
mean, I
just
honestly think she was closed off enough that she would have been fine until he
yeah.
was, yeah. But after a couple more rounds, they need a break for food. Cam wants to make sure that they're still on the same page about this just being sex, and Hazel makes it very clear that that's all she wants. And if he's amenable, she'd like to have repeat occurrences, but only if he's down. He says that they should take a couple days when they're not so sex blinded to think about it and make sure that that's what they both want. But either way, they shouldn't tell anyone. And she agrees. And then Hazel's door is rattling, trying to be open because it should be noted that her door is really, really hard to open. And it's Zoe. They panic. She shoves Cam into a closet until she can distract Zoe by bringing her into the dining room for a glass of wine so that Cam can find his pants and sneak out of the house. A few days later, there is a council meeting dinner, and Darius picks Hazel up for it. She makes sure to look nice for Cam at the restaurant, though she finds ladies there who freak out upon seeing her. Apparently, they're part of her fan club and are staying in town because of her. They've been following her journey that she's been posting about online. She's been more prevalent online and trying to keep things up, and they chat and take pictures with her, and it makes her feel good for a hot second. But then the dinner begins. They go to their private room. The other council members are used to Darius's shenanigans, so they don't really give him much time to sit before they're demanding what they're there for. He's trying to get them to order, but he ends up giving in and telling them that they are broke. They're having trouble coming up with money to cover the sewage treatment plant upgrade required, and if it doesn't happen before the deadline, they will face serious fines, which will make things worse, and they might have to declare bankruptcy, and then that might mean that they'll be absorbed by another town, meaning Dominion. He called them there so that they can brainstorm options. They can't really hike taxes up again because they can't afford to lose more residents. So they try to come up with ideas like grants or other things, but Cam points out that there's not really time to raise money because they need that time to make the upgrades, et cetera, et cetera. Darius just closes the meeting saying that they all should brainstorm and talk about it at the next meeting now that they know what the problem is. Cam tells Darius he doesn't have to bring Hazel home because he has tile samples for her to go through, which Hazel's confused at first because she doesn't understand this code thing until he's like, I have tiles for everything but your bedroom. She's like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So um they don't make it far. They get into his truck. Thankfully, he parked in the back parking lot where there's no one else, and they fuck in his truck like horny teenagers. And then they go back to Hazel's for snacks. Cam seems kind of miffed that she immediately wants to talk about snacks in the sewer project right after having sex in his truck. And once they walk in the door, she wants to talk about her restoration. But then the raccoon makes a noise and scares the shit out of them, or rather him. And he's kind of frustrated because they've been cutting off ways for this raccoon to get in. But she keeps making her way in. And then he finds out Hazel's been feeding the raccoon.
That would be me.
Yeah.
I would feed the raccoon.
So I'm not sure how much time goes by next because honestly, this is one of my biggest pet peeves about this book because time doesn't exist. I don't know why that's a thing. I just need things to be a little laid out more because genuinely things are funny and there's things happening but I need to know when and where and what's going on. Anywho, some amount of time later goes by where they've been fucking each other where they can and they keep business as usual and Hazel writes and blah blah blah. One day, Hazel is taking care of her front yard and trying to clean that up because remember eyesore. When the boys leave and Zoe is talking to her about how her editor is going to require chapters soon because Zoe kind of slipped that Hazel is going in a different direction with this book instead of continuing the series that she had been on that was contracted originally. And her ex is like writing stuff in a magazine about her and an interview, and he keeps messaging her. And she's just overwhelmed and just needing to chill out. So she's just like laying in the dirt and just wallowing for a hot second when Levi comes out of the house a little bit late because he had forgotten something inside. And he just takes one look at her and asks if she needs to go get a drink. And she's like, yeah, because fair. She doesn't think he's asking for a date, just, drinks. So they get to the bar and Levi asks all kinds of questions about being an author because apparently he writes himself and wants to know if it feels normal to feel like such a failure and feel like if nothing is ever good enough and if he should stop. And she tells him it's part of the process, at least it is for her. He wants to write thrillers and stuff, or he has been. So he was kind of trying to pick her brain about it. But of course, it's a small town, so someone obviously gossips to Cam, who's taking a shift at the store, that they saw his brother and that writer out at the bar together. And then the family group chat starts blowing up, and Cam puts the back in 15-minute sign on the counter and heads for the bar. He strides right up to the two of them, startling them, and asks if they're seeing each other. Levi tells him it's none of his business. Hazel says no. They're gathering a crowd. Cam says he thought they had an arrangement. She says they do, that this isn't a date. He says, well, had, past tense. He was getting bored anyway. He expected more out of a romance novelist, really. It's time they call it quits. Levi says that was uncalled for and that he owes Hazel an apology. He just looks at Hazel and says it was fun while it lasted. Levi says, not cool, getting in his face. Hazel gets in between them and says, first of all, they did not discuss seeing other people, even though she assumed that getting naked together, that should have been an agreement between them that was just them, but they didn't. Either way, she's not here with his brother for romantic or naked reasons. He wants to know why she didn't tell him. She could have texted him. She said she could have. Sure. She was already in a mood, and Levi asked to get a drink, and they were just talking. She's just giving him this chance to not completely fuck this up. He should take it. Sure, she could have given him a heads up, and she can understand why he might be a little irritated. But if he's just looking for an out, this is a shitty and cowardly way to take it. He confirms that she does not want to date his brother. She says no, she does not want to date him. He changes it to, does she want to have sex with his brother? And she says no, not if she's going to still have sex with Cam. If they both agree to continue, they need to edit their original agreement to clarify no one else. And she leaves.
Men are just so dumb.
Yeah. Levi walks over to Cam and suggests that they go back to Levi's place. They get there and then they start punching each other. They're not like put you in the hospital punches, but they're definitely fighting without trying to murder each other. And they continue this until Levi tells him he was just talking to her about books because he's thinking about writing thrillers and trying to take that seriously. And Cam realizes he fucked up because he actually likes Hazel, likes her. The next morning, both brothers bring Hazel flowers when they get to work at her house as an apology for being dicks. The people who were supposed to be working on the roof don't show up because the next town over, that damn woman Nina, the mayor, called them for an emergency thing in Dominion. She's just trying to fuck with Story Lake. Wanting to get out of the house anyways because hello, testosterone. And after the whole debacle the night before, Hazel heads to Dominion and pokes around, wanting to see what's going on. She even gets lucky and overhears Nina herself talking to somebody about turning Story Lake into a golf course, and she starts having ideas turn in her head. She meets up with Laura, who's with Cam's mom, and starts to plan, which turns into dinner, and all the boys come and they have her invite Zoe, and it just becomes the whole thing. Cam is not shy around Hazel all of a sudden and is all up in her face after his big old epiphany about liking her. And Hazel's just like, dude, trying to scheme here. They have dinner and pull together a thorough plan for the council meeting. And at the council meeting, Hazel is a bundle of knots. Darius announces that Levi won the special election for the police chief, which cool to see that vote happened. But
Yeah.
and then they move on to the next item of business. They only have 8 months to come up with $200,000 and finish the upgrades on the plant, which causes an uproar to the room. Cam gets them to settle down, and one of the other council members proposes that they start applying for grants to cover the cost. Another suggests that they ask for an extension on the timeline. Darius said he did try to do that, and that they said no. Hazel reluctantly takes her turn and says that Dominion has taken a lot from the town, especially tourism, over the years. What if they found a way to take some of that back? And then she starts a presentation that she had been up all night working on, showing side by side shots of Dominion over the holiday versus them. Like a picture of a lake with them, picture of a lake with Dominion. And which would people rather be? If they cater to families with kids and older couples versus the big party goers, they could try to hit that demographic and focus there. They could focus on fishermen versus the speedboat crowd and keep going. They could rebrand with a festival or a kayak race or pie contest, something around Labor Day, something small. The Bishop family basically has a petting zoo at their house since they take in every animal under the freaking sun, especially if there's something wrong with them. They could also do a 5K race. They could have food trucks. Some skeptic asks how one event is going to help them get their goal. Hazel's honest and says it's not, but they have to start somewhere. They can build, snowball. It's a multi-prong approach, the end goal of saving the entire town. They're going to start by re-requesting an extension and applying for grants and bring revenue into the town long term. Labor Day is only a week away, short timing, but if they band together as a town, they can do it. Apparently, her chair position is in charge of Parks and Rec. I'm assuming because that's what Darius made it sound like. Who knows? Not a lot of information. We'll go with it. But he was asking for people to volunteer to co-chair, and Cam says he'll do it. And with everyone shocked at that admission, he then says, by the way, he and Hazel are dating. Needless to say, Hazel's pissed, and when Cam basically forces her hand to get them to talk the next evening because they obviously have to plan this damn thing, she wants to know what game he's playing. He says no game, just dinner and saving the town, but he's clearly setting up his whole elaborate thing. He even put candles on the table, cooking food for her. She tells him they agreed they weren't in a relationship. They agreed it was just sex and nothing more. What the fuck? He says, yeah, well, he changed his mind. She says he doesn't get to change his mind in front of the entire town. He says that she would have just panicked and spent a week overanalyzing the whole thing, and he would have had to spend another week trying to seduce her back, and really, he just saved them so much time. This is the fastest way. Plus, he doesn't want to share. He sure could have done it a better way, but here they are now. So, is she in? Or does he have to announce to the whole town a breakup? She says she'll see how good his dinner and his ideas for the festival are, and then she'll make a decision. Of course, the evening ends up in their sexy times, and of course, Hazel makes him promise to never make any relationship declarations without her ever again, and they decide to forego condoms, so that escalates real fast.
Yeah.
The next day, Hazel has to deal with Zoe's confrontation, though, as they go door to door campaigning for their summer festival and asking for help to make it happen. Hazel tries to placate Zoe by saying it's more like exclusive fucking and that she just emailed her the first 10 chapters, so suck it.
So suck it.
She calls Hazel out and says that Hazel actually likes Cam. She's glowing. She's writing at pre ex husband speeds. She's planning a Hallmark movie town event to save the place, and she's showering regularly. Zoe thinks Hazel must be happy. Not to mention that her and Cam are eating together. They're spending the night together. She's met his whole family. She hates to break it to Hazel, but she thinks Cam manipulated her into an entire actual relationship. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. The next day, Hazel's to-do list is going great. Things are coming together for the festival. She's riding her bike home, thinking about how she's going to learn how to grill steaks because she thinks Cam would like steaks. When the drywall people are backing out of her driveway and neither one of them see each other and they almost collide, but at the last second they both manage to avoid it. But that does not stop Cam from seeing it and going all panic mode. It should be noted, if it was not mentioned previously, that Laura has had her spinal injury because she was out running with her husband and they both got hit by a car. Her husband died, which also happened to be Cam's best friend, and Laura was left in a wheelchair. So Cam rushes to Hazel, scoops her up, saying that's it, and puts her in his truck. He's taking her for driving lessons. He needs her to be able to drive a real car. A while later, she's hit trash cans and curbs and all kinds of shit, but she's getting better, he thinks. She's grumpy because she had grand plans of going to the store and actually cooking a real meal after having an awesome day, and now she's got to do this because the guy she's having sex with hates her bike. She's not having any fun. She doesn't like driving. If she wanted to have sex with a driver's ed teacher, she would have picked an actual driver's ed teacher.
Oof.
By the time they get back to her house, Cam had texted and arranged for the entire Bishop clan plus Zoe to be at her house already grilling. They set up on the lawn, and Darius stops by to let them know that he secured 2 tourist buses that got canceled from other places, one family one and one senior citizen one, and everyone's happy. And then Cam tries to convince her that she should really add a deck to the back and add that to their work list, which he's been doing the whole time, adding little things throughout the house, like, oh, you should really add a pantry here, or you should add this here. And she always gives in. And she gives in again as long as he agrees to add a ramp so that Laura has access to her house, which makes him go all doe-eyed.
Gooey.
Yep, gooey is a better word.
We were both. Same thing, different
Yep.
wording.
She asks him if they're dating. He wants to know why it matters what they call it. And she says she doesn't have time for a relationship. He says she's making time for him. She says he works at her house. It's very convenient. She's worried that she's going to wake up one day living with him with 3 kids and 7 pigs, and he tells her to relax. They're just having a good time. And he kisses her to distract her, and then he tells his family to go home. Labor Day comes around in the festival, and things are actually coming together. They're feeling really good about it, except the person who must be on the inside is sabotaging them. Someone set a detour for one of the big buses, and so they only get the elderly bus in. So they have to rearrange everything and try to make the best of it. For the old people, they all band together and have their big ultimate bingo as the main event. And they do really well, except somebody is sabotaging every turn, poking holes in boats, letting animals free. It's just nonstop sabotaging things until the town works together all day to make it so that the elderly tour bus does have the best time ever. But by the end, they're all flustered and exhausted and covered in everything under the sun and feeling not that successful. Cam tries to convince them that they all worked together and overcame a lot, even though they were clearly being taken down from the inside. Plus, this is just step one in a long battle. And then Nina shows up to gloat in everyone's face. Hazel does not take this well, especially in the mood she's in, and starts yelling at her, blaming her for stealing from Story Lake. And then Nina pushes her and she's like, fucking no way. And Hazel pushes Nina right into the lake, which makes Nina go on a whole rant about how she's going to sue her and the whole town. And Gage steps up and says, as her lawyer, please send all frivolous lawsuits through attorneys. And then she starts swearing and saying she's going to have the whole family arrested. And then Levi steps up as chief of police and says he's going to have to ask her to refrain from public swearing because he makes up some kind of law on the spot about how people can't swear between the hours of 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. on Labor Day or some shit. And she's yelling and gets out of the lake and marches right up to Emily's car, which shouldn't shock anyone. But Emily is the inside man, or woman, rather. And she's not gone for very long before they get another surprise visitor, Jim. Hazel is a little frustrated because when Jim was going to see her again, she was supposed to be looking fabulous, not covered in ice cream and sweat and animal fur and hay and lake and everything from the whole freaking day. And he just walks up saying, there's his girl. Like, what the fuck? Cam and Zoe both take a step in front of Hazel. Levi, engaged, sensing tension, join rank. And then out from behind Jim comes Hazel's mom. So Hazel's super confused. She asks her mom what she's doing there, and especially with Jim. And her mom just says that Jim called and said that Hazel was having some kind of midlife crisis. She stopped writing, moved to the middle of nowhere, and that they were needed. The boys flank Hazel's back as she walks to her mom, and her mom obviously gets distracted asking to be introduced. Hazel does introduce them, and her mom is suddenly much less worried about her, especially when she sees Zoe and hugs her. Zoe says it's good to see her, but what the hell is she doing with her daughter's ex-husband, especially after he cheated her out of her own work? And her mother is like, what the fuck? Jim is like, no need to be dramatic. Hazel turns to Jim and says that she ignored his calls and texts and emails for a reason. She has no idea why he's there after he stole her first 3 books from her in the divorce, but nothing he has to say to her would interest her in the slightest. And the last person who just pissed her off ended up in the lake. And clearly they've gathered a crowd because the town starts clapping, and her mom's confused. What does she mean? He stole her books. Why did she ask for help? She would have given her a team of attorneys. Hazel turns to Jim and once again asks why he's there. He says he cares about her. She obviously needs guidance. That maybe they should talk in private. The boys say that is not happening. He says fine. He tells Hazel that she needs to give up on this passion project because she's contracted to write another book in the series. He had lunch with her editor and the whole team. She's pissed and tells him he is not her agent. He has no right. And he says they both have a vested interest in this. She said he only has a vested interest because he's the one who gets the royalties of the first 3 books in that series, even though all he did was shit on them. They were the ones who supported them both. Hazel's mother turns to Jim and asks if all this is true. He just says he was entitled to an equitable distribution. Cam wants to punch him in the face. Hazel tells Jim he's been the one doing all the taking for the last 10 years, and now he shows up in her town and tells her what she needs to do so he can earn more of her money, while all he and his publisher friends can just right the fuck off. She will write what she wants, and if he doesn't want her to start campaigning against people buying those books that he owns, she thinks he should leave right then and never mention her name again. And then Goose flies over and throws a fish at him. And Gage tells him he better hurry. He just angered Goose. Jim runs for his life. After everyone is showered and cleaned up, Hazel talks with her mom and comes clean about all the divorce stuff. She didn't want to go through the divorce stuff at all. She's been through enough divorces with her mother. She didn't want to be like that. She just wanted it over, so she gave in. Yeah, it was probably the wrong thing to do at the time, but that's what happened. Her mom wants her to stop accepting less than what she's worth and to go after what she wants. And if Cam is what she wants right now, go after it. No one's going to hand her what she wants. Her mom heads off just as a bunch of people, led by Darius, stream through her front door for a strategy meeting. They found a lot of the sabotage stuff in Emily's trunk. Apparently, Nina had promised to make her deputy mayor if Dominion was able to take over Story Lake. And apparently, the senior tour bus have already contacted Darius. They had the best time and already want to schedule another bus trip next month. And they get started planning a fall festival and a weekend-long bingo event. Things get back to usual, except more planning going on, but construction on the house is underway and the book writing is underway. Hazel's reaching out to new publishers. Things are going well until all the boys get a message saying Laura fell and is in the hospital. She's fine. She just forgot to lock the wheel in her wheelchair and fell. She needed a couple stitches, but Cam seeing her, it's bringing back everything. all over again. Them not knowing if she was going to wake up, his best friend not being alive anymore, just everything. And he realizes that he got distracted. He let Hazel let him forget that the most important rule in life is that you can lose the people you love. And he goes home and just starts to drink. Hazel shows up at his house because he hadn't been answering texts or calls, and she's worried about him. And he's mean and asks why she's there, just to use his family's misery in her books. She's been minding his life for weeks for her own game. Why stop now? They should really just take this for what it is. It's not working anymore. She says it was working fine earlier. He says he's sorry if he made her feel that way. It's not what he wants. He doesn't have the time or space for her in his life, and he's sorry if it hurts her feelings, but this has run its course. He needs to focus on his family and his business without distractions. She's like, what the fuck? Because he's the one who manipulated her into dating him. He's like, the agreement said no strings, just sex. And as soon as it stops working for somebody, they can be done. She says he doesn't get to unpack all the emotional baggage and trauma that he's been carting around and use it against her. Is he really going to end things after he's the one who convinced her to give this a try after he made her fall in love with him? And he just blankly looks at her and asks, what does she want from him? And after a breath, she says nothing, nothing at all, and leaves. 2 days later, and Zoe is prying Hazel out of bed. She says that she let her rot in depression last time, and that was a mistake. She gave her the 48 hours, and now she's going to move on. She's not having a lengthy wallow again. Cam's not the only man out there. He's not even the only hot bishop out there. And it's Monday, which means it's a work day, and Gage and Levi are hovering out in the driveway, waiting to hear if it's safe. Apparently, according to them, Cam is working at another job site for the day, and Zoe tells her she doesn't want the boys reporting back to him. They had to work around Hazel being a depressed sack of potatoes. She also guilt trips Hazel about writing because both their careers are on the line, and they gave them both up for this whole thing of hers. Blah, blah, blah. Hazel says fine, but they're going to Zoe's to write because she doesn't want to worry about Cam showing up at any moment. A week goes by, and Cam has avoided Hazel's house, and he's been doing odd jobs, but the town has definitely turned on him. They all have copies of Hazel's book that they carry around with them to show what side they're on, and they have Team Hazel flyers, and nobody wants to talk to him. Well, except when they want to tell him how well Hazel's doing, or how good she looks, or how she'll find another man who treats her right. Not even his family has been talking to him. Even Goose literally shits on him.
I'm still just not getting over his name.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Even his mom cackled when she saw Goose pooped on his head when he went to his parents' house because his dad called him there to lecture him. Though his dad has trouble getting out, so his mom takes over and tells him he's a big ass chicken and he hurt Hazel to save himself the pain. And he's like, they don't fucking care if they break up with anyone else. What the fuck? His mom points out that Hazel isn't just some girl, that he loves her. He tries to say it's just indigestion. His mom tells him that life is precious, even when it hurts, and he deserves everything out of it. He needs to not put all of his happiness in one basket. It's not okay to only worry about what's going on with his family. He needs to keep living and find happiness for himself. And another week goes by, and Cam kind of has a heart to heart with his siblings because they realize none of them ever talk about shit. And Laura has it out with him because Cam can't just use what happened to her as an excuse to be a coward. And Hazel is still avoiding her house during the day and trying to keep up appearances, though she hasn't really been in town as much as she can. But Zoe drags her to a bar on Saturday night, and Hazel realizes the whole Team Hazel thing is like legit and in full force, and she's confused and shocked and weirded out all at the same time. But the guy who runs their neighborhood social media and is really just a pain in the ass paparazzi because he's got a camera in everyone's face all the time convinces her to let him set up a promotional thing for someone else, supposedly. Not really, but she just buys it because she's very distracted in her own mind. But he puts a much younger hot man next to her to take a picture of her and then excuses himself. And then the gym bro is just still sitting there talking to Hazel, and Hazel's like rubbing her neck because it's tense. And then the guy reaches out because he knows how to fix it, Jim Bro. And he starts massaging her neck, and she's Oh yeah, like getting right like right into it until Cam strides right up, weird neck massage, telling the guy to get his hands off her, and then the rest of the people around the bar start giving him a hard time because Hazel can do what she wants. What the fuck is Cam's problem? He just asks if they can talk, that it's been tough to talk to her with her, dating every man in town. And he shows his phone to her, scrolling through all the photos on the neighborhood watch app thing. The paparazzi dude had basically set her up to look like she'd been basically with everyone all week. And then a bunch of shit happens that I don't really understand off page, but somehow Cam ends up in a lake. I it was like a chapter was missing. I don't even know.
I don't know.
No idea. But anywho, he walks to Hazel's house to talk to her, because time doesn't exist. And he goes to her house and confesses that he broke up with her because he was scared. The whole love thing was new to him, and he was fine until Laura ended up at the hospital, and then he just lost it. He felt like he didn't protect Laura the first time, and obviously her love didn't save her from losing it. And when he saw Laura in the hospital that second time, all he saw was Hazel. And he's just had his ass handed to him all week, and he's had some hard realities that everyone loses people that they love, and there's no escaping it. So if he's going to suffer, he wants to suffer with Hazel. She tells him that's a very depressing gesture.
Right? I'm
He
gonna
tells,
suffer. I'm gonna suffer with you.
yeah, he tells her life is messy, but he'd rather be a part of her mess than watch her make a mess with someone else. Everyone knows they belong together, and now he knows it too. And he's not letting her go. And he kisses her until she breaks it, telling him he hurt her. She doesn't know if she wants to forgive him. He says, good, he hasn't earned it yet. She deserves everything. He wants everything with her, a home, a family, less raccoons, but he tells her to be ready because he will give her the grand gesture she deserves. And he leaves. Hazel has to go away for a few days to New York to have some publishing meetings and interviews, and they go really well. And her and Zoe are both happy with it and finding a new company. And Zoe stays behind for a couple extra days to check on her place. But Hazel wants to get home. She's shocked to find her porch ready with a ramp on it when she gets there. That wasn't in the timeline. She immediately calls Cam, but he doesn't answer. So she calls Laura and asks if she wants to try it out. Laura is already pulling into her driveway, so that's convenient. They go inside, and her house is done. It shouldn't have been. Laura says that they pulled all-nighters and called in reinforcements and furniture. She didn't order more furniture, but Laura says it must have been the furniture fairies. She also finds a lot of Cam's stuff randomly placed, and she's confused. And then the doorbell rings. It's Darius with the head of the old people home. And they went on the tour through the town. They want to tell Hazel that their company bought an old hospital property in town, and Story Lake is going to be the home of their newest assisted living facility. Hazel's confused. She's like, half of it wasn't real, though. And the lady says she knows, she's a big fan. She reads Hazel's newsletter, but that just showed how Story Lake goes above and beyond to make everyone feel welcome, and the hospital grounds will be a perfect fit. Darius also tells her that 20 other counties in the state were given the same guidelines to make upgrades, but they were given 5 years to do it. It was all Nina railroading them to move up the deadline. So now they have the time again. So awesome sauce. And then Gage, Levi, Zoe, and Cam come bursting through the door. Gage, Levi, and Zoe are all shit faced, and Cam is saying they need food stat because they've been like this since they left New York. Hazel's confused. Cam has a crate under each arm, and Laura tries to herd Gage, Levi, and Zoe out of the room. Zoe's complaining that she wants to see Hazel's face, and Cam guides Hazel into her office, which I'm so confused if her office is on the bottom floor or the second floor because it depended on what scene they were in, which floor it was on.
We can make up 1.5. Floor 1.5.
It was just confusing.
It's like one of those little mini ledges in between the floors.
It's stairs do not exist,
The limit does not
except in the
exist.
beginning when they talked about stairs.
The limit doesn't exist.
Yeah. Anyway, he tells her he fucked up, but he's probably going to fuck up again because he's a man and she's going to have to be patient with him. But
At least he
first,
admits it.
he needs her to know that he loves her. They're interrupted by some awes because the drunks and Laura have their face pressed up against the glass. I want to know what glass because there's just glass walls to her office. I don't know. But he tells her he wants a life with her. He wants a home with her. But nothing he could offer her would take place of what she lost, and she's confused. And he pulls out three of her original series books and says they could be put away in their rightful place now because she refused to put those three away when she was unpacking because those don't belong to her anymore. And Zoe can't keep her mouth shut and she just screams that they got her books back. And Hazel looks at him and he nods, saying Jim no longer owns any of them, that he signed the rights back. And she asks if Jim's dead and if Cam's going to prison. Cam tells her that Zoe called a meeting with Jim and his boss, and they all showed up along with six of her mother's favorite lawyers. And they laid out how damaging to the agency's reputation it would be if the clients knew that they employed agents who assumed rights of authors' intellectual property because Jim was doing it long before the divorce. And they saw reason. Jim was not happy about this. He even tried to get a punch in, so Cam got to get a punch in. Yeah, Hazel and Cam kiss, and Cam announces to the whole room that they're getting married, in which Hazel's like, what? Because I thought we were not doing announcements anymore, buddy. Cam pulls out a
Too bad.
wedding organizer notebook and taped on the first page is an engagement ring that says, say yes. And she says,
No, I'm just kidding.
yes. And then says, wait, what's in the crates? And he says it's his backup plan if she tried to say no. One has a big pudgy cat in it, and the other has a one-eyed puppy. And she says, what about the raccoon? Do they get along with cats and dogs? He tells her the raccoon has been relocated to the backyard. They even built her a fancy raccoon house. They say they love each other, and Cam is relieved and tells her that it's good because he already moved all his stuff in. They spend the evening celebrating. Cam's parents come. Then we have an epilogue. 13 months later, they're having a second annual fall festival. Her book, inspired by Cam, hit #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. They're married now. The raccoon loved her outdoor house and had babies in it. Hazel has written 2 more books, and Story Lake is doing well. It's the new hit destination spot for romance readers, though Darius had to go off to college, and Laura was nominated by her brothers, mostly, I'm assuming, in revenge for nominating Levi. But she won in a landslide, and that's the book.
Yes. Who was your favorite?
Maybe the animals.
I honestly was going to say the raccoon.
Yeah. There was a lot going on.
Yeah.
There was a lot going on. I feel like I loved the moments that we had those, like the raccoons and the different animals and stuff, and those little funny bits.
Yeah.
But it was hard because they were just kind of thrown in here and there. And I wish they tied a little bit better and it flowed a little bit better. Like they weren't just there to be there and funny.
Hmm.
Like I needed, yeah. So to have a least favorite character, honestly, I think it's Cam.
Yeah.
I don't I don't really like them together. I
Yeah.
feel like it had such potential for them to be great, but then his character just turned this weird toxic like
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
and I didn't like it because there wasn't enough because of how sporadic and just bam bam bam, it didn't give us enough to give the depth of his character to allow for that.
Yeah. I don't like whatever that bitch's name was.
Nina or
That one.
Emily?
Nina.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I agree as well. Alrighty. So I cannot give all 3 ratings today because Storygraph is down for maintenance. So
Oh no.
Amazon gives us a 4.5 and Goodreads a 4.2.
What do you rate it?
A 3.5. Which is honestly
Honestly,
lower than most of my Lucy Score books are, because I do like I said, I like the Knock 'em Out series a
is it
lot.
just the ones we end up reading?
I know every single time fucking Ariel picks a goddamn book. This is what happens because you picked the last Lucy Score book.
But
I
I
know.
think if I remember, but I'm thinking that that's the same problem because I liked the pieces, but they didn't flow together.
Yeah.
And but that was not the problem in the Knock 'em Out books.
I didn't think so. I gotta read the second one and the third one. I read the first one and I really liked it.
So maybe,
I don't know. Maybe. Because this is just a one-off, right? Maybe the
yeah.
series
Well,
are built a little bit
there's
better.
going to be more
Oh,
in the
gotcha.
series, but there are reviews saying that people who love her work that this particular book was
Wasn't,
a flop.
yeah.
And I think
Okay.
that happened the last time
I
too.
think so too, yeah.
So
We just keep picking the other books. Anyways, Peppers. Oh, wait. I would survive. Wait, nope, that doesn't come
that's
next,
okay.
actually.
I would survive too.
Peppers, because
I'm
we
gonna
need to
say
do the.
jalapeno.
Yeah, I was gonna go jalapeno as well.
But yeah, I just I really needed more.
Yeah.
I'm just sad because I loved the Gilmore-esque feel, but I do feel like it was a little bit of copy paste in some areas,
Yeah,
like on purpose.
probably. Okay, cool. Now I gotta spin, right? That's it? I don't fucking know where I am. I don't know how to feel because there are three books left.
That's crazy.
So, are you ready?
I am ready.
Perfect. And we're
Three
gonna spin
books.
it.
That's freaking wild.
Here we go. Wild Tides by Eden Hale.
Mermaid. Cassandra Mallory, a high-strung businesswoman, is not having a good day. First, she's the victim of a freak accident, falling overboard from her cruise ship amidst the worst storm ever. Then, while stranded on a desert island far away from all the comforts of modern life, she finds out she's not alone. There's a creature lurking in the waters. His tail alone is larger than Cassandra's whole body. He doesn't understand a word she says, and he's scaly and blue. But who needs words when you can have raw physical attraction? One thing's for sure, getting stranded may not have been the beach vacation Cassandra had planned, but surrendering to the wild currents of passion and desire was exactly what she needed.
Ooh. So we're
Hmm.
going mermaids.
Mermaids.
Woo! So join us next week and join us for the remainder of our fucking wheel, which has two more quite wild. I can't even word today. But yeah,
Read about the mermaids and make sure to keep reading.
I'd keep it smutty. Do you want to tell them what we read?
I just did.
Did you? I think you did. You say the name of it? I thought you were just
Yep.
talking about Lucy's score. I don't know. Now I'm the problem.
And now worse, she has a non-complete, and now she has a non, and now worse, she has a non-compete call. Then he sees that she's trying to haze up, and then he tries to, and then
And then what, Ariel?
I don't know.
And then
Walk back to his. Anywho. Oh fuck.
oh fuck.